All right, let's go ahead and get underway today. First off, I'd like to welcome everyone to today's webcast event, Cooking Up the Best Marketing Performance, the Active Ingredients to Achieving Excellence, brought to you today by Vision Edge Marketing in partnership with Hive9 and Valid USA. So the point of today's broadcast is to unveil the results of the 16th Annual Marketing Performance Management MPM Benchmark Study. We'd love to share those results with you today, and we'll also have a dedicated Q&A at the end of the broadcast. So if you have questions, feel free to ask them throughout today's presentation, either in the question panel or in the chat window, and we'll do our best to address those at the end of today's presentation. So before we get started, I'd like to go ahead and introduce all of today's sponsors behind this year's research. My name is Patrick Kilgore. I'm the Director of Marketing at Hive9. I'm joined today by Laura Patterson, President at Vision Edge Marketing. Hi, Laura.
Hi, Patrick.
And we also have Rick Miller, Director of Sales at Valid USA, with us today.
Good morning, or afternoon now.
So before we go ahead and get started and get underway with the actual findings from the annual MPM benchmark, I thought I'd let each of us tell you a little bit about who we are, the purpose of our organization, and why we are here today to share with you best-in-class marketing practices. Laura, why don't you talk a little bit about Vision Edge?
Okay, and I'll be making this very brief because we have a lot of content to get through, and I want to devote as much of our time to that as possible. Today is Vision Edge Marketing's 18th birthday, so we're really excited to combine the 16th annual study results with this milestone of our company. We started in 1999 with a focus on data analytics, process, and measurement, and that has continued to be our core focus and capabilities ever since. And we really believe that through the work that we do, our customers are able to improve marketing's effectiveness, prove marketing's value, and employ better data analytics, metrics, and processes. So if you are trying to evolve your marketing organization into what we call high-performing value creators, we would love to hear from you. And note that term value creator because we're going to be using it a lot today.
Perfect. Thanks, Laura. So real quick background on Hive9 as well. Hive9 is a software as a service vendor in the marketing performance management space, and we specialize in planning and budgeting solutions for B2B. So what we do at Hive9 is we tie your full marketing plan to marketing performance, to budgets, and to strategy as well. And so if you notice the pyramid off to the right of my screen, we really like to think of ourselves as all of the layers of intelligence between that frontline marketing execution. So all of those goals, plans, and the associated costs and budget and performance between that frontline execution and ultimately organizational strategy. We found that measurements become truly actionable when you tie them back to business goals. So, for sure, think about us throughout today's presentation. And when you start to conduct your marketing planning for 2018, as we know, fall is just around the corner, we'd love to connect with you and show you the new data-driven way forward. And last but certainly not least, Rick, why don't you tell us a little bit about Valid USA and the secure data solutions you offer?
Thank you, Patrick. Valid USA was founded in 1969, and we bring to market our Into suite of solutions, which are used to unify and create actionable data, allowing brands to deliver enhanced customer and prospect engagements. The solutions within our suite include data processing, database and campaign management, modeling and analytics, as well as email and mobile campaign delivery. And please feel free to contact us after the webinar for more information about Valid.
Thanks, Rick. So what are the conversation topics that we're going to get into today? First, we're going to spend some time sharing with you the state of the kitchen that we're cooking in. And we'll be making a lot of sort of top chef and kitchen and cooking related analogies today, so bear with us. But we want to show you the state of the current marketing landscape and draw an analogy back to cooking. We're going to share with you what top chefs, also known as best-in-class marketers, serve up better and differently than their underperforming counterparts. We're also going to share the value creators' 5 active ingredients. So the distillation of this year's survey is the sort of 5 active ingredients that we've determined that value creators or best-in-class marketers deploy in their marketing organizations. We're going to share with you what those are and help you start to go down a path to deploy those yourself. We're also going to cover how value creators run their kitchen. So what do those marketers do differently? We're going to share the steps that you can take now to begin to put those into practice. And as I mentioned, we'll save some time at the end for a discussion around your plan of action and how you can follow the best-in-class marketing approaches at your organization. So the kitchen we're cooking in. So we found that CEOs are under increasing pressure to achieve growth. And all of these are from this year's 2017 study. But if you look, you can see that KPMG shows that nearly 9 in 10 marketing organizations expect their CEO to lead the organization on a strategic growth trajectory. And with that, we know that growth has become marketing's first mandate. So another study from CMO Council and Deloitte found that almost 70% of CEOs now expect their CMO, their chief marketing officer, to lead and drive revenue growth. So gone are the days of activity metrics. Gone are the days of brand awareness as the way that we sized up marketing. Marketing now has to show actually their impact on the bottom line and revenue at the organization. We'd also like to point out that we found that 7 out of 10 CEOs believe that their company wastes money on marketing initiatives. Now, this isn't entirely new, but we know that marketing has long been an art that's been sort of shrouded in mystery. But, that's beginning to change. So a Forbes Insight study revealed that CMOs are still struggling to quantify and communicate the value that their marketing group creates. And so that's that quote unquote marketing performance credibility gap with their C-suite, with their board of directors. So what marketing needs to do is get rid of this performance credibility gap, remove the shroud of mystery and show the value and the impact that marketing actually has on the organization. And one final thought, this is a little bit sobering here, but I want to share it before we get into the actual data itself. 2016 saw witness to the highest level of marketing leader appointments and turnover, according to Russell Reynolds and Associates. And Forrester too is predicting that that's not going to change anytime soon. CEOs are expected to give 30% of CMOs their marching papers, this year. That means that 3 out of 10 marketers are already tagged for pink slips. Now, we know that the lifespan of a marketer is short, and we'd like to present some data today to suggest how we can change that and fight back against that notion. Now, the C-suite has several expectations of marketing that we've determined that marketers just have to meet in 2017 with the current landscape. The first is that marketers have to serve as members of the business team. What we mean by that is, just like the chief financial officer or the head of sales has to know everything about how the organization is run on the day-to-day and how their part of the business impacts the bottom line, marketing does as well. So marketing, in turn, has to make their data and metrics relevant. So things like impressions, clicks, specific metrics we may have pointed to in years past to show the value of what we do are not relevant to that audience, or they're not deep enough as far as where we need to go. It's also important that marketers show the relationship between those marketing activities and business results, a la revenue. So we have to create those linkages, and we have to show the C-suite how marketing is really affecting the organization and the value that we're adding. It's also important, as we said, to show how marketing is demonstrating value. So marketing is doing a lot of things, running events, sending out emails, engaging with people at different stages of the buyer's journey. It's important that we show how marketing is creating that value for the organization at large. So how does marketing measure up? Well, we're going to let Rick from Value USA take it from here.
Thank you, Patrick. Before we get into the, I guess I would call the meat and potatoes of the study, which Laura will be sharing with us, we wanted to touch on several questions that were asked of the study participants and share some of those results with you. So from this year's study, what we have found is that, as you see, only 23%, slightly more than 1 in 5 marketing groups or organizations earn an A from the C-suite for their ability to prove marketing's value, impact, and contribution to the business. You'll see here, as Patrick had mentioned, the study is in its 16th year, so we wanted to share with you a 10-year trend analysis on this grading scale. And what you can see from the scale itself is that the A's, the highest ranked marketing organizations, have remained fairly steady. The B's and C's, what we might call the middle of the pack, have shown a slight decline. But of greatest concern is we're seeing that the Ds are on the rise in terms of being graded by the C-suite, and we correlate that to higher expectations potentially due to investments being made by the organizations. Just to clarify a little bit further as far as some of those numbers, and Laura mentioned that this term is going to come up, the number of value creators or best-in-class marketing organizations have stalled. Those are our A's. You'll learn more about those. And the D-rated marketing organizations continue to climb. Those came in at 69 or less. So that begs the question. We ask the participants of the study to provide a score. And you can see from our rankings here, only a third of marketing organizations received high satisfaction ratings for their ability to derive insights from data, from business, and from marketing performance. So the question is that we ended up posing is, are the advances in investments in data processes and technology all for naught? The results of the study would indicate that the answer to that may potentially be yes, but we'll learn more about that later on in the results. So the other question that was asked of our study participants is how much pressure is being put on them to be able to measure their contribution value and impact to the organization. And as you can see from our graphic here, 68% of this year's participants say that the pressure for marketing to measure value, impact, and contribution is on the rise. And we have another 25% who say that that pressure has stayed the same. So really the study results show us that pressure is increasing or staying the same within over 90% of the organizations that participated in this year's study. So let me tell you a little bit about the background of the study itself. So as Patrick mentioned earlier, the marketing performance MPM benchmark study for this year was conducted by Vision Edge Marketing in partnership with Hive 9 and Valid USA. The online study was fielded earlier this year from March 1st to April 7th. And at the end of the day, we assimilated data from 418 qualified survey responses that were used in the analysis Laura is going to be sharing with you. 30% of the participants reflected members of the C-suite, and that would include titles such as CEOs, COOs, CFOs, and presidents. And the participants represent companies of various sizes spanning geographic locations, as well as a mix of business to business, business to consumer, or a combination of both. What our results from the study show us is that there were no statistical differences in results between roles, company type, or company size. And we have found that the results of this study are 95%, plus or minus 4.75% statistically projectable to marketing organizations, which basically means 95% of the people on the call today, the results of this study are relevant to. So just to give you some background and a little bit further background in terms of who took the study, you can see here from the infographics that we've put together, the roles between the C-suite. We broke out CMOs specifically separately in terms of roles, marketing and sales, company types, a strong mix of B2B, B2C, and both. And then in terms of the company size by revenue, you can see that we had participants with less than $50 million in revenue and participants who had $10 billion or more in revenue. So we think this, as the headline shows, represents a real broad and even representation of the industry, and the organizations that were willing to participate within the study really have a broad range within the industry itself. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Laura and let her continue on with telling us about the marketing personas.
Thank you, Patrick and Rick, and thank you all for joining us today. We are pretty excited about this year's results because one of the things that we've been trying to understand over the last couple of years is how can we peel the onion, so to speak, even more, so that we can get into and as Patrick said, distill into and down into the subtle nuances that distinguish these best-in-class marketers from the rest. It seems like everybody's doing the same thing, so why does this one group consistently do better, and why are some of the others continuing to fall short? So one of the things that we've been able to do as a result of ongoing research for the last 16 years is being able to organize marketers into 3 primary personas around their ability to prove business value, impact, and contribution. And so you'll see this reference throughout the rest of the presentation and in the results. And these 3 personas are the value creators, known as the leaders or best-in-class marketers. These are the folks who got a score of 90 to 100 from the C-suite for their ability to prove marketing's value, impact, and contribution. And as Rick mentioned, that's about 23% of the marketers this year, as well as the last couple of years. It's kind of stalled out, as Rick mentioned. This group, what we know about them from conversations with members of the C-suite is that they are really focused on how they can be more strategic to the organization and help the organization create value. The second group, which is about 40%, those are those Bs, the folks that got the 80 to 89 on the question that the C-suite answered. This is the sales enablers. They're the middle of the pack. And the way to think about them and how they are often described is they see themselves in service to the sales organization. So that's really how they operate. It's not about serving the business or understanding the business. It's about making sure that the sales organization is taken care of. And the last group, which is the Cs and Ds, and a growing number of marketers, as you saw for this year, and a little worrisome for those of us who've been participating in the study, and I know some of you have been doing the study for a number of years, are the laggards, and these are the campaign producers. The way to think of these folks, and they do a very good job for what they're asked to do, is they're the campaign producers because they operate kind of like an internal agency. They know how to make the stuff. They're good at the execution, the day-to-day execution of marketing activities and programs, but they're not really sought out from a strategic perspective by the organization. So that's the 3 primary personas, and everything we do, we'll be talking about those. We're really going to spend most of today, as we delve into the 5 active ingredients, comparing the value creators to the campaign producers because of growing disparity between those 2 groups and the increasing numbers of campaign producers. That doesn't mean that there aren't things that sales enablers are doing well or could be doing better, and where appropriate, we will bring that up. So we're not leaving anybody behind because that is a large number of folks. I just want to say, you guys that are in that sales enabler category, steady as you go, continue to do what you're doing. You're making good progress. There's probably a few switches you might want to turn on. Okay, does it matter? Does it really make a difference knowing this information and having it? And the answer to that question is, it is if you want to have your impact be clear to the organization. And I can't think of a marketing CMO or leader that we have spoken with over the years who doesn't want their impact to the business to be clear. And this is where value creators actually shine. They're 3 times better than their campaign producer counterparts and making their impact to the business clear to their respective leadership teams. And so as you look at that, that's a pretty big difference, even between sales enablers and value creators, but the significantly difference between the campaign producers and the value creators. And so when you think about that, if 46% of the participants agree it's clear, right, and only 16% of campaign producers are clear, that's still a large number of marketers that still aren't clear. So if it's projectable data, you have to think about half of them still need to make improvements there. So we all need to make improvements. And it also has to do with overall satisfaction. So when you look at the satisfaction of marketing in terms of being able to track, measure, and improve performance and derive insights, it's always higher, consistently higher for value creators in all of those categories. And the way to think about this is a scale of 1 through 10. So 10 being you excel, and 1 meaning that you are not doing well at all, right? So if you think about those of us who have kids who come home from school with report cards, a 5 out of 10 would not be something we would be very excited to see. And so, as you can see, campaign producers are hovering in that 5 range. Now, all marketers need to improve because the highest score on here is only a 7 out of 10. Not great, kind of an average rating, but still better than their campaign producers. But everyone needs to improve here on these 4 areas if they want to see the satisfaction ratings go up. And so, the ability to measure the contribution to the business really is something that the value creators are cracking the code on. 88% of participants agree that the value creators are much better at measuring their contribution to the business. And this is, again, significantly different between campaign producers and value creators. So that doesn't mean that campaign producers aren't reporting on things. In the moment, you're going to see they are. They're measuring, they're reporting. They have dashboards, they have marketing plans. But in terms of being able to connect the dots, make the relationship between the work of marketing and the results for the business, there's a long way to go for campaign producers. And including the sales enablers. I mean, again, there's still some opportunities for improvement for sales enablers. So 2 times better for value creators compared to campaign producer counterparts. And can we see that play out in the business? I mean, ultimately, that's what we all care about. We're all as you notice, this is all B2B or B2C companies. So this is not nonprofits. This is not government agencies. These are people who are expected to produce value for the organization that has financial implications. And so we need to look at the financial implications. And so do you impact results? And the value creators are better able to impact every category of business results, especially in the areas of revenue, customer acquisition, customer loyalty. So if you look at this chart, you're looking at these main categories. The place that you kind of see low would be around win rate, because typically that's something that maybe others are measuring more so than marketing organizations, but around customer acquisition, customer retention, acquiring even net new customers, improving customer loyalty. This is where value creators are heads and shoulders above their counterparts. And even in the areas that are typically the domain of sales enablers and campaign producers, which is around demand gen or generating new opportunities, even their value creators excel. So that's something to keep in mind here. It's not just about the demand gen, which the value creators are doing, but it's also around that bigger picture and bigger story for the business. You might ask, it's because they have more money, or it's because they have more technology or better technology? We're here to tell you that's not the case. If you look at their percentage of budget to revenue, or the budget to percentage of revenue, doesn't really matter by persona at all. There's no discernible differences. Value creators and campaign producers have about the same amount of money. Sales enablers actually have the most money, and even so, they have opportunities for improvement with their scores. So what do? Right? That's really the question. What is it that they do, and what can you emulate or copy from them? And there's so let's start about that. First, they're able to do a better job of deriving insights from data and improving marketing performance. Much, much better. And we're going to talk about why. They're actually 2 times better than the campaign producer colleagues at measuring their contribution to the business. And they're 3 times more likely to exemplify what we call a center of excellence than campaign producers. And we're going to spend a little time talking about centers of excellence towards the end of today's conversation. And the question then becomes, does it really matter? Okay, it matters to the business, but what does it mean for marketing? And what it means for marketing has to do with credibility and influence. If you want more influence over what happens in the business and business decisions, and you want to have greater credibility or perceived to be a more credible part of the organization, then value creators are certainly making huge strides in these areas. Okay, so let's start diving into the ingredients, the specific things. And as I said earlier, the real focus of this year's study was to get to the subtle nuances. We learned back in 2011 that alignment and accountability were statistically significant in terms of what value creators did better and differently. So now what we really wanted to learn since then was, what does that really mean? Between 2011 and 2017, A few other A's that emerged as being something that the value creators were better at were like analytics and technology, and some of the alliances they had forged with sales, IT, and finance. All of those now have become level playing field, so to speak. Every organization has those today and is doing a pretty good job at them and have realized a need to do those, and that those are now best practices. So what is it that continues to be the differentiators? Let's go take a look. Well, first, the very, very first thing is business acumen. And Patrick alluded to this at the very beginning. The value creators think of themselves as members of the business team. They're business people first, marketers second. And I know some of you have heard me say that before, but it's really a critical distinguishing factor. So when they are bringing their information to the C-suite, whatever it is, whether it's in a quarterly business review or an ops review, or it's any other kind of strategic conversation, they're really being able to take what they're doing in marketing and give it context within the business and what it means to the business. So it's the ability to make really good judgments and quick decisions. And they earn a 7.1 out of 10 for business acumen. Again, still an opportunity for improvement, but way better than their colleagues. And what do you need to do it? Well, some of it you have to do by understanding what your company is all about. And not just thinking about, again, what you can do in marketing, but really having a pulse on the market, on your customers, your competition. You have to have access to very good data, solid analytic skills so you know what to do with that data and how to use that data to make good decisions. And you have to have the right metrics. So we're going to talk a lot more about metrics in a moment. And one of the things that's important is to remember there is a big difference between measures and metrics. And the value creators are much better at the metrics, even though they do have a variety of measures. They know how to pick the right metrics, and they know how to use those metrics to make decisions. Okay, so here we go. Let's talk about metrics. They have more confidence and mastery in selecting the right metrics, and they know which metrics matter to the leadership team. Campaign producers, which remember, 40% of marketing organizations, that means 40% of the people on this call fall into campaign producers. 40% of all marketing organizations fall into campaign producers. That's a pretty large number. They fall well below average for their ability to have data and analytics mastery. So this is something that every marketing organization needs to shore up. Even value creators need to make enhancements and improvements here, but they have certainly, again, really beefed up their capabilities, their skills, particularly their skills and their talent in their organizations. It's not about the plan. So a lot of people say, oh, maybe it has something to do with better planning. It's not about the plan or even more insights into the strategic plan, because in some instances, again, having good business acumen also gives you access to the strategic plan. So every marketing organization we have ever worked with since 1999 has a marketing plan of some kind in some framework. It's really how those plans are constructed that is unique to the value creators. And the thing that's unique to them is their ability to forge metrics chains. So a metrics chain is the sequence of metrics that form a link between marketing activity and investments and outcomes. This is the real critical difference. So when you do that, you have a better way to tell a story. You also can see where you need to fix things in the link. And so 96 of value creators that are in this study, right? Out of the 418, given 23%, 96 of them are value creators. Even of the value creators, only 58 of them can use metrics chains. So it's a good number, but there still are value creators that don't have them, that need to do them. But if you compare that to sales enablers, of the 167 sales enablers, only 60 of them have metrics chains. And of the 159 campaign producers, only 55. So this is a big difference in terms of the percentage of value creators who use metrics chains. And since this is a projectable study, that means 41% of all marketing organizations lack this ingredient, right? So that's really what this means. Still room for improvement, again, for everybody, including value creators. But this is, if there's one active ingredient after business acumen that every marketing organization can do, it's in metrics chains. So what does that look like and what does that mean? Many of you are familiar with our metrics continuum. And that is the big foundation, the fundamental foundation of how you begin to decide what elements are going to be in your metrics chain. And it's not just about picking some number of metrics from various categories. It's about getting the right mix of those metrics, and so that they actually work and play together, so that they are fine seasoning. So if you think about making a dish, you wouldn't necessarily start by just putting any kind of spice into the dish. You'd want those spices that are going to enhance the dish, and you want them to work together to make for better flavor, as opposed to just be all over the board. Okay, next ingredient, number 3, performance targets. Once again, what does that really mean? This is about having a quantifiable commitment to achieve a specific and better quality of performance over some period of time. And this is how we know whether or not we're doing a good job. It still amazes me how many times we look at marketing plans and there are no quantifiable performance targets for an objective, for a program, for an activity, very broad terms. It might be increase, it might be strengthen, it might be generate. There's verbs, but no real performance target and no time frame in which it's going to be done by. And I know you all know about SMART, setting SMART goals, but even so, these need to be outcome-based performance targets. So it's not just how many people you're going to get to register for a webinar, for example, but really how many of those are going to end up being viable opportunities that are going to convert with some particular win rate into some kind of revenue. And so 80% of value creators ensure that most, if not all, of their marketing objectives and programs have these outcome-based performance targets right at the get-go. Only about 52% of campaign producers actually are able to do this. So what's the rub in that? Why is that a bad thing? Well, even if you report on the performance after the fact, if it's not in the context of what you committed to doing, when you arbitrarily declare success, your leadership team can arbitrarily declare failure. When you have agreement right at the very beginning what excellence is, then we can all have agreement at the end whether or not marketing achieved what they set out to do. And so again, very, very important. You can see here how the differences are for value creators and sales enablers and campaign producers. And as you can see, it's the value creators that are really kind of got this nailed. So what do you need to do it? You need to, every single person that's sitting on this conversation today can make sure that every program has a quantifiable outcome-based performance target before it's executed. Active ingredient number 4, dashboards. Again, dashboards are becoming something that every marketing organization is producing today, whether it's a dashboard that they're doing through the click of a button on a piece of software they're using out of their CRM or marketing automation platform, or it's something that they're doing through third party or some other business intelligence software they have purchased. Everybody's got one. So what makes a dashboard a better dashboard? It has to do with whether or not it helps you make good decisions and helps mitigate your risk and helps you set your course. So value creators' marketing dashboards are actually quite a bit different from their colleagues. Compared to their counterparts in the sales enablers and the campaign producers, there's 3 things their dashboards do far better. They monitor and measure marketing objectives and how well they're working in terms of alignment to the business outcomes. They are better at analyzing the performance of campaigns or any other marketing activities. And they're also working very hard on being able to track marketing metrics and performance to those metrics in real time. So campaign producers really fail to do this. And the best way to look at that and see that is in this heat map. So what you see here on the far right are scores 7 or less, and on the far left are scores 8 or better in key areas of dashboards that were defined in the study. And so you can see how many blues there are in the campaign producers for 7 or less. So this is where they're kind of stuck compared to sales enablers and value creators have far more reds. Okay, what do you need to make these kinds of dashboards? Well, you kind of need metrics chains. You've got to have the right metrics chains because they become the framework and foundation for your marketing dashboard. Okay, that takes us to the last active ingredient. And right after this, we'll have a quick poll, and then we'll delve into running the kitchen. So three more slides, and then we'd love to hear from you. So this is about relevant data. Today, there's data everywhere. We all have access to data. I don't know how good all of it is all of the time, but some people are probably feeling like they're being sucked into the vortex of data. Others are probably feeling like they're swimming upstream in data, and others we hear are feeling like they're being fire hosed from data. So it's even more important that marketing organizations are able to make their data relevant. The ability to collect, analyze, and use data, especially for the purpose of course adjustments, strategic decisions, improving effectiveness and efficiency. That's what we need to have happen in the data world. A third of all marketing organizations, it doesn't matter what persona you are, a third of all marketing organizations have to improve their ability to use data. This is a challenge for everyone because until we make our data relevant to the business, until we come to the table with relevant data, we'll never earn a seat at the table. And those marketers who are earning a seat at the table it's because they are being able to make their data relevant. So it doesn't necessarily just mean I have good data, but how do I turn that data, analyze that data, and transform that data into something that allows the C-suite to make a better decision or even to make a decision? And so that takes us to improving our data proficiency. The value creators have a long road ahead of them just as much as anybody else in being able to use data. But despite that, they're more adept than their counterparts at using data to support strategic decisions. Only a quarter of sales enablers are actually good at using data to make strategic decisions. That's 40% of marketers, but only about a little over 10% actually can deliver on this skill if you're a campaign producer. So real opportunities for improvement there. If you want a seat at the table, you got to provide data that facilitates decisions. And we have found that there is a very, very strong relationship between the relevancy of marketing's data and the usage of that data to make decisions. So here's how you can kind of look at that. Data decision-making and data relevancy. And you can see they're almost step in step with each other. So I'd like to turn it back to Patrick.
Sure. So let's go ahead and take just a moment, and we'd love to poll the audience and get your take. So I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll quickly. And the question that we have for everyone today is, which of the study's 5 secret ingredients are you most interested in deploying in the near term? So in the next sort of 12, 18-month period. So it's just to select one of the following. Are you most interested in enhanced business acumen, in building metrics chains and building out those linkages, in establishing performance targets or baselines at your organization? Are you interested in deploying intelligent dashboards? Or last but certainly not least, in identifying relevant data? So go ahead and make your selection. We'll give everyone just a moment, and then we'll go ahead and close the poll and we can share the results. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll and share with everyone what we found. So interesting. It looks like the largest percentage of the audience is interested in starting with maybe building out metrics chains, followed by enhanced business acumen, and kind of an even split between establishing those performance baselines and relevant data, and last but not least, deploying intelligent dashboards, which, Laura, what do you think? Do you think that speaks to the fact that folks feel like they have a lot of what they need from dashboards already, and maybe that's less of a focus in 2017? What are your thoughts?
It's a really good question. I think that until you get the metrics chains right, you can't really get the dashboards right. So I think the audience here recognizes that's like a precursor. And so that makes perfect sense to me. I do think it's important, though, to remember that they kind of go together. You can get your dashboards to become better when your metrics chains are properly formulated.
Sure, of course. Well, fantastic. Well, let's jump back in.
Thank you all for taking that poll.
Okay, and back to the presentation.
We're getting close to wrapping it up, and we really appreciate your all's patience and time, and hopefully you're finding this to be valuable. But all these ingredients, they're only good if you can actually apply them. And that's the key point here. So what allows you to do that? Well, we began to look at the functionality of the marketing organization. And what is it that sets them apart? And it has a lot to do with the marketing ops function. Just about every marketing organization that in this study and that we've ever worked with has some kind of marketing ops organization, whether that's one person or a whole team of people, whether that's one person that's doing it full time or a whole team of people doing it full time. It's really important if you want to be able to have both an effective and an efficient marketing organization, as you're going to see in a moment. The value creators actually apply or have a different kind of marketing ops organization than their counterparts. In fact, they have about twice as many responsibilities and roles within marketing ops than their counterpart, either sales enablers or campaign producers. 40% of a performance gap is something that is pretty startling to us. We took a look at where the marketing organizations had what they were doing and what they weren't doing. And what we saw is that in 5 key areas, there was a huge gap in what the marketing organizations did in the value creators versus the sales enablers and campaign producers. And interestingly enough, these gaps actually reflect back on the grade, right? So strategic planning, analysis and reporting, doing analytics and modeling, benchmarking for continuous improvement, and then NPM measurement and reporting. So it makes sense that the value creators would be getting these A's and have higher satisfaction and stronger capabilities because they're 40% better at doing it than any of their colleagues. So I think that's an interesting number. So what is it they do, right? Here's what is a way to look at it. So we teased out what is it the marketing ops function is doing, and then how are each of those organizations, each of those personas, how well are they actually utilizing that capability within marketing ops? It doesn't mean it doesn't exist in marketing somewhere else in marketing or somewhere else in the organization. This is about within marketing ops. And so what you can see here is that the value creators have, in almost every instance, with the exception of data management, much better coverage in these areas within marketing ops compared to their counterparts. And so I think that's the key message here. And the marketing ops it's really the key to continuous improvement because this is the primary role of being a center of excellence is to foster leadership, best practices, and enhancement of skills in a particular focused area, which in this case would be marketing. And so the reason you would set up a center of excellence is to be able to drive better business results. And what we know is that 2/3 of the value creators actually exemplify a center of excellence compared to only half of the sales enablers and less than a third of the campaign producers. So it translates, the marketing ops function translates into actual practice, right? And then that practice translates into better business results. That translates into having more influence and credibility, and that gives you a better A. See, it's all totally related. Okay, so subtle nuances. We're wrapping it up now, and we're opening up the conversation here. 5 things if you want to be one of these 5-star organizations. Invest your time, talent, and treasure in doing these things. 1, become a business savvy chef. And as you just said in your poll, many of you have that right on your radar screen to be doing sooner than later. 2, make metrics chains a binding agent. If you need help, give us a holler, have us look at your marketing plan. We'll tell you whether or not you have any metrics chains and what you need to do to fix them. If you know you don't have them, we'll help you get them started. Serve up quantifiable outcome-based performance targets. Again, just say no, if I can borrow, just say no to putting on any kind of program or activity or an objective unless you have this already done. Just say no first, and then get it right, and then execute to it. Craft superior dashboards, dish out relevant data, and lastly, keep your kitchen running with stellar marketing operations. Again, yes, it will make a difference to the business, but it will also make a difference to you professionally, to you personally, and to, of course, our discipline, to the discipline of marketing. Patrick.
Well, fantastic. Thank you, Laura. I know there was a lot of meat to cover throughout the middle part of that presentation, but we certainly uncovered a lot of data in this year's annual study, and that's something that we wanted to share. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just, in summary, mention a couple of quick notes about the sponsors. But if you do have a question, feel free to type it directly into the questions panel located in your GoToWebinar toolbar. Or if you happen to ask one in the chat window, we'll check there as well to make sure that we've addressed your question. And if for whatever reason we run out of time, since we have a few minutes left before the top of the hour, feel free to connect with us after the webcast closes, and we'll be sure to answer your question then. But in summary, just to let you know, the three sponsors today that brought to you this year's 2017 Annual Marketing Performance Management Benchmark, Vision Edge Marketing, Hive9, and Valid USA. So if you're looking to identify what are those metrics chains, what are those best-in-class marketing practices that I would like to lay out at my organization? What performance targets should I be outlining? Be sure to connect with Vision Edge Marketing after the webcast closes. You can find them at visionedgemarketing.com, or you can follow Laura at LauraVEM. If for whatever reason you have pains around spreadsheets and budgeting and planning, or if you're having trouble linking that frontline marketing execution to your organizational strategy or to revenue, my organization Hive9 has a fantastic software solution to that challenge, and one that we'd love to share with you. And you can find us at hive9.com, or you can just follow us directly at Hive9, N-I-N-E. And last but certainly not least, thank you, Rick, for joining us as well today. Rick comes by way of Valid USA, who is a global leader in secure data solutions. So, whether it's your data processing needs, if you have challenges around database and campaign management, if you're interested in their best practices around modeling and analytics, or email and mobile campaign delivery, Valid USA is here to help. You can find them at valid.com, or in the North American or US market at validusa.com. So let me go ahead and dig into some of the questions and see if we can't answer for the audience some of what they may have been interested in today. So the first question, do you believe that marketers don't know how to prove their value to the business because of either, one, they don't know what should be measured, two, they don't understand how marketing is critical to the business, or three, they don't have the tools and technology to measure what needs to be measured? Laura, what do you think about that?
Oh, yes.
Yes, yes, and yes.
That's a great question. More, I would say 1 and 2 than 3. I don't think it's a technology issue any longer. There's just so much. Anyone who has seen the latest MarTech landscape graphic knows that there is an explosion of technology, and there's something for every pocketbook size in every category. So it's not a technology challenge anymore. I think if we wanted to get into details about that, we can talk about back in a few years ago where that was a challenge, but not today. It really is those first two. That was a great question.
Yeah, and I think just to tack onto that, I mean, obviously, we mentioned the MarTech landscape, and there are a lot of point solutions that solve one particular piece of the puzzle, but the reality is you can solve one of those challenges. It's truly integrating all of the parts of your marketing organization, building those linkages to your metrics, and making sure that you're conducting best-in-class marketing across a myriad of fronts that helps marketing organizations become best-in-class and achieve truly powerful results.
Well said.
So here's another great one. What's an example of a metrics chain? So what are we talking about specifically?
Oh, wow. Okay. That is a great question. And I'm going to suggest that you take a look at the Vision Edge Marketing website, because we have some examples of metrics, of a metrics chain, so you can kind of see what that looks like. Because it really depends on every company. It isn't going to be like everybody will have the same one. Because even though all businesses, so this is where the challenge becomes, right? Every business that is expected to make money has to do that by getting new customers, keeping some number of customers, growing their business with existing customers, bringing new products to market, expanding the footprint inside segments, all those things. So you really have to hone in on the specific outcome, not just growing revenue, not just profit, which are financial targets, but really get to the outcome. And once we know the outcome, we can start building out the metrics chain. So you have to start there. And without knowing that, can't really dig any further down.
So another great one, this individual writes in asking about the historical data that we've been gathering over the last decade, over the last 16 years of the study. And they ask, what are the big differences in understanding this study versus previous years? Is the marketing world getting better overall or declining or flat? What's the overall trend? And maybe we should dig a little deeper into what we meant about that group of D ranking campaign producers, why they seem to be growing.
That is a really good question. I'll start, but I think there's a lot of wisdom here at the table, so I don't want to hog up the whole answer. I think that there, a couple of things have happened, and I was talking about this earlier. I was saying, the more we seem to talk about exercise and eating right, the higher the obesity rate seems to be getting in our own country, in the United States. If anybody saw the latest announcement of that, we have the largest proportion of obese children in the world, right? So here we are. We've been talking about, our company has been talking about improving marketing performance, measurement, and management now for 18 years. And the more we talk about it, sometimes I think what we've seen is the worse it's gotten. Now, some of that could be we're just being able to dig in and get more and more data better than ever before. We're finding that. But the other thing is, I think the easy things have already been tackled, and now we're into the harder things, right? It's like, like the easy diseases have also been eradicated. Now we have the hard things to solve. And so I think that's where we are in marketing. And as a result, the expectations of the C-suite are increasing as they continue to make investments, and the pressure on them increases. It all rolls downhill. So they're expecting marketing. Hey, marketing, we've made these investments. We've given you this additional talent. We've given you more money. Where do we begin to see the results? So I think you have a combination of things that are happening, sort of a convergence of things, not just a change in marketing, but a change in the environment, change in the business climate. That's right. my take. What do you guys think?
I would reiterate what you said from the two slides I covered earlier. We saw that 90% of marketing organizations are seeing increased pressure, and we saw the D group, or the D grade, continuing to increase based on what we feel are raised expectations, whether that expectation is based on technology investment or other factors within the organization. The bottom line is marketing's under a tremendous amount of pressure.
Yeah, I think, Rick, that's really well said. And when you showed that slide with the trend inching slightly upward year over year with that D group, it almost might suggest to the layman, hey, marketers are not doing as well as they have in previous years. But I think, to your point, the expectation, the bar has been raised. With the elevation of the VP marketing to the CMO, marketing has a seat at the table, and we have all this data at our fingertips. There are all these tools out there to help us solve that challenge, and there's almost an overwhelming amount of data. So it's hard to know where to start. But with that data, marketing's job now is to mine that, discover the insights, figure out what it is that we could really truly be doing better, and take it from there. And only when marketing is able to really truly provide valuable, powerful insights will we start to see that trend reverse. So that's fantastic. So I know we're coming up on the top of the hour. I think that if we didn't get to your question, feel free to follow up with either Vision Edge, Hive9, or Valid USA. As it shows on the screen, we're going to be making a free abbreviated report available in the coming weeks. In the meantime, the recording of today's broadcast will be made available to registrants and attendees of today's webcast. So we'll be sending that out tomorrow in an email. So look for a link on that in case you'd like to review the information or if there's anything you'd like to double back on. So just in closing, Rick, Laura, I'd love to thank you both for being here with us today here in Austin. It's great to just get in one room and to cover all of this powerful material. And we look forward to following up with everybody who attended and talking more about marketing performance.
And I want to thank all of the folks who came today. We appreciate you being here. And I want to also thank Hive9 and Valid USA for collaborating with us and sponsoring this year's research. Thank you both.
Been our pleasure. We've learned a lot.
All right. Thanks, everybody.